I wanted to do a quick video on the Leatt 5.5 FlexLock boots since I have a new pair and an old pair here. Just talk through some of the things I like about them, some of the issues I've had. I am not a pro rider or a pro reviewer. I'm an average guy. My favorite boots really before these were the Alpinestars Tech 7s. I've been using those for, I probably had 4 or 5 pairs of those. I am open B or open A class rider, depending on if you're talking like GNCC or local stuff. Ride a lot of hard enduro. I don't do really any moto stuff. So that will also color my opinion of these quite a bit. As an amateur guy, going for durability, comfort, protection. I don't want to screw up an ankle, don't want to screw my foot up, but at the same time, going through $600 plus pairs of boots fairly quickly is also not something that is terribly affordable. I tend to be fairly hard on boot soles. I stand up a lot. Hard enduro stuff requires that. I don't have crazy sharp foot pegs on any of my bikes. They're all the stock pegs that I sharpen occasionally. Nothing like the titanium spike pegs that you see on some of the pro bikes and stuff. So first we'll go with the old ones. These probably have 60 plus hours on them. I ride around 120 hours a year, I guess, on dirt bikes. So that's about half a season. Maybe it's probably got a little bit more than that on it, I guess. For comparison's sake, a pair of Tech 7s would last me about a year, maybe a year and a half. The hinge on the Tech 7 blows out before anything else. For me, the hinge on the Tech 7 being right here, it'll pop open, it catches on the plastics. Usually that happens around the same time that the sole starts being kind of gone. And that's when the boot's done for me. When that hinge starts catching on my plastics, I can't really ride in them anymore. It's pretty sketchy and you can't pull your foot off the peg. These, by comparison, the soles don't last as long. That's really the first thing. This is the shifter side. You can see I stand a little bit back behind the balls of my feet most of the time. For some reason that I don't understand, I always wear these boots out on the outside. I don't seem to see that on my Tech 7s or other boots I've had. So I don't know what makes these unique. I think the sole itself, like there's this sole and then there's the inner structure. I think the inner structure of the foot is a little bit softer on these. So it flexes more and then it tears along this 90-degree edge where the point of the foot peg is in it. And you got the bike leaned over, but you're still standing on the pegs. The tip of that foot peg is just digging in. So I always kill the boot right there. And if you look at the brake side, I slide my foot forward to hit the brake. I actually really like the heel on these because I can slide up to the same place every time and I know where I'm going to hit the brake lever. I don't have really any problems with it chunking on the toe with the brake lever. I use the short brake lever, the short tip on my KTMs. If you use a longer tip, it's even lower risk, but I'm not tearing the edge of this off or anything. You can see the same like tip of the foot peg wear on these. It's really weird. I haven't seen that on other boots. I assume it's because the sole is more flexible. So right off the bat, that's kind of the downside of these, is the soles don't have the durability. The rest of the boot holds up fairly well, but that's the main problem I've had with them. Other slightly annoying things that aren't, fundamental wear concerns so much. The hinge on the inside, there's a screw that goes through and there's a washer with a flange on it, and that flange sits in an ear, which may or may not be visible on the camera there. And what happens, like this boot, is that flange pulls through the ear. And there's an easy fix, which I've done on this. So this was my second pair. These new ones are my third pair of these boots. The first pair, I put a bigger washer on that on that flange, and I never had the problem again. I never really got around to doing it on these boots. I need to do it here, but usually what I do is I'll just pull the screw out. I'll put the flanged washer back behind the ear and screw it back in, and then it's fine for quite a while. There must be something I'm doing that causes that to happen. It only happens every once in a while, probably hard landings or something, but you don't really want the hinge popping out because that's part of the safety. So that one's a little bit annoying. The buckles on the boot are kind of in my slightly annoying category. They are my favorite kind of buckle, which is this kind of, you snag the end in, you pull the thing shut, and they do snap shut pretty firmly. They don't have quite the same positive cam over click that the Tech 7s have, but they're not far from it. I don't really have a problem with these ever popping open on me. The problem that I do have, and I left all these a little bit dirty on purpose, see if one would do it, is they'll get stuck. They'll be really stiff like that, and then, yeah, so that one's an example. Sometimes you can't get it closed at all when it's on your foot, and it's because dirt gets in here. They're supposed to be self-cleaning. They kind of are. My solution is I will lick my finger when I'm putting these on. It's weird, but it works. Lick my finger, just rub it across that little cam, and then they close and snap shut and stay shut just fine. But it's just one more slightly annoying thing where it doesn't take much dirt. This boot I didn't wash it very well, but it's not filthy, and it's still kind of stiff. So that's one little annoying thing. And then the last thing that I'll say is, a little bit annoying or a little bit doesn't seem quite right, is you see this is part of the hinge system on the outside of the boot, and the insert pops out and slides down under the plastic, and you can see on both of these they've both popped out and slid down, and nothing's loose. This plastic guard piece is in there just the way it's supposed to be. Everything is in there fine, but for whatever reason that red insert moves, and you have to like pull it up, and then it'll pop back out, and then the hinge is nice and stiff again. I wish there was a good fix for that, because the boot does feel a lot more stiff and protective when that square is lined up right. I guess you could glue it in place. The reason it's a separate piece and not something that's, one piece, or just, this whole hinge just has the hole through the middle, is that's something that when you buy these boots, they come with those inserts. So these are just the round inserts, the stiff inserts. When you buy the boots, they come with an insert that has a gap in it. So there's actually, and these are new and stiff and they're locked, but it gives it a little bit of extra movement here. So you can move your ankle some before it locks up. Personally, I value the safety factor a little bit more than the boot feel factor, just because these are not the stiffest boots to start out with. So adding that extra bit of safety is more important to me. However, it does kind of pop out, and I think in the end you end up with basically the same effect, where it has a little window it can move around in before it locks up. So that's the last of the slightly annoying things, that can kind of pop back and fall down. On the good side, maybe I should have started with the good side. I really like the feel of these. So a lot of boots, the more protective you get, the clunkier they get, the worse your peg and control feel is. These have really, really good peg and control feel, which is what I want doing extreme enduro, and to a lesser extent the hair scramble stuff. So big fan of the feel of these. I never have issues getting to the controls, knowing where my feet are on the foot pegs. All of that works very, very well for me. The soles, and maybe this is part of why they don't seem to last forever, the soles are very grippy. They hook up on the pegs just fine. They feel smooth. Yeah, there's some texture to them. It's actually really nice when you're pushing your bike around, but you don't feel any of this stuff catching on the peg, so you've got kind of free movement on your feet. So all of that, very good. Big fan of the feel. Ultimately, that's why I keep coming back and buying these. Well, they're a little bit more budget friendly, but the feel of them is great. They fit my feet really well. I guess it's hard to describe my feet. I have a kind of a narrow heel, but a wide front of my foot, which sometimes makes the heel feel very loose on boots where the front of my foot fits well, or it may be a little bit too narrow on the front, and I'll get blisters like on the side of my feet if the heel feels good. So these fit me really well. I think because they're just a little more flexible. That is a molded in sole. It's not sewn on. I don't think there's a replacement program for the soles. Even if there was, the glued-on ones usually don't hold up nearly as well as the original sole that was on the boot. You can see this one, the inner hinge is where it's supposed to be, and it's nice and stiff because it's in that slot. Other design features, it does have a stiffener on the back to help protect your ankle. It's got a lock on the back, so if your toe gets pulled down, it will lock on this surface and preventing it from flexing. The first generation of these boots, there were two versions that came with it. There was a soft and a stiff. Based on the latest pair of boots, they all come with a stiff one. You don't get the option of the soft one, which to me is fine. I tried both of them. I couldn't tell the difference. And safety is more important, I think. If you can't tell a difference in the feel, I'd rather go with the safer option. They don't really have any issue with being too flexible in any direction that I can see, which is a little different than like the Tech 7s, which was my kind of previous and still one of my favorite boots. The Tech 7s are more flexible fore and aft, I think. They have a little bit less of a positive locking feel if you hit something and you don't feel the boot save you so much as these, where you will feel it kind of lock up and go stiff if you catch your foot. If you're dragging a foot going around a corner and catch something funny, these do pretty well. The only other wear that I've had on these, you maybe saw earlier, a little bit of wear on the front of the boots. I wear knee braces. My guess is that pushes on the front of the boot a little bit more. That's every boot I've ever had does that with the Leatt knee braces that I've used. So I don't count that as being a weird or odd, annoying failure, just part of boots getting abused. The rest of the inner lining holds up very well. I do wash my boots pretty much after every ride because it's so muddy in the Midwest. And they've held up just fine. They don't get smelly or rotten or anything weird. So quality of materials seems to be pretty decent. I have had a little bit of wear on the inside. I don't think either of these shows it all that well. Maybe this one a little bit more. The first pair of these that I had, I actually wore through this plastic piece, and I wore through like the stitching came out. So it looked bad, but it didn't seem to impact performance at all. In fact, I didn't even notice it until I went to like basically get rid of them, chuck them. It was like, oh, that's worn out. Didn't even notice. This pad right here is a rubber insert. I don't think it's replaceable. I think it's glued on. Really good seamless feel on these boots. The whole inside where you're hugging the bike is a nice continuous surface. And all of this is my problem with the Tech 7s, right? The Tech 7s have upward facing seams on them. All of the seams on these are downward facing, meaning the area where the boot is larger is all kind of overhanging something on the bottom. That way it can't catch the bottom side of your number plate plastics, which is the problem that I always had with the Tech 7s. I've never had that with these. These feel nice and, again, seamless. No matter where you are on the bike, if you're attacking over the bars, if you're leaning back going down a steep hill, they kind of slide and don't hook on anything on the bike. So, again, the feel is my favorite part of these, followed by the price point. I feel like you get a boot that's very close, if not equal, to the Tech 7s in quality of materials. at a much lower price than the Tech 7. Yeah, and you get all the protection. The boot has much better feel than a Tech 7 without making me feel like I'm sacrificing comfort. It's not like I have a pair of Garnet Trials boots. Yeah, you don't ride fast in those. They don't feel safe. These never give you that feeling. You have all the peg feel without the risk. So that's just a quick overview of the Leatt 5.5 FlexLock boots from just an average dude who buys his own gear and wears it all out and uses it until there's nothing left. Overall, really happy with them, and until something else comes along that's maybe better, these are what I'll likely keep using. Big fan.